resume video.
Concerns about the fact that we would have this on an agenda, and this isn't directed at you, Mr. Chairman. You inherit these policies and these procedures, but I mean,
Well, that's
but I think going forward, this is something that needs to be addressed just for basic due process concerns.
Senator, I agree completely. It's something to take a look at the rules and the protocols of the committee so that we make sure that we've got due notice. That's a good point.
Sure.
And one that will be followed up on. Any other questions? Okay. Representative Mayfield, would you like to make a motion?
Thank you, Mr. Just as a comment first, I think if some of the things that have been said is actually happening, then, if this audit. Now is it on? Okay. If some of the things that have been said is actually happening, and the audit brings these things out, I would think that there could be some criminal charges filed later, if that is the case. I'll also say that some of this you have to fix at home because of the fact it is local county commissioners, local city council people. They are elected, and if they're not doing the job that the citizens want you to do, then they should be electing new city council members or county commissioners to do the job. And to have an administrator be calling all the shots and they're not even on a contract, if I would, it would seem to me that he would be put on notice and you would be hiring someone that could have the same, the same philosophy that you have on the way the government should be running. I think there's also some things in here that probably should be specific to investigating some of the actions that have been taken place in it. But I know that time is of the essence for the community, and I know that you represent your community well, Representative Van Zant. As we've all said, all politics is local, and we're up here to take care of our citizens and watch over the taxpayers' money. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I move that the committee direct the Audit General to perform an operational audit of Putnam County and the City of Palatka pursuant to the authority provided in Section 11.453 of the Florida statute. The Audit General shall finalize the scope of the audit during the course of the audit, providing that the audit-related concerns of the citizens have been provided or considered. I further move that we allow the Audit General to set the timing of the audit as audit resources are available, consistent with her work plan, so as not to jeopardize the timely completion of the statutory mandated assignments.
Thank you, Representative. Any questions? Debate? Senator Gibson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and certainly thank you, Representative Van Zant and the people of Palatka and Putnam County. And this is more addressed to them than so much to you, and that is no matter what the audit findings are, if there is systemic corruption, there's nothing that the audit can do about that. Yeah. And so it's going to be incumbent upon you all as citizens. You took the time to come here today to make sure that you are invested right, in your community to make the changes that you want to see. And who knows which way the audit is going to come out. Yeah. It may be that some folks made some mistakes in the paperwork that they gave you and all's well, or it may be that it's the other way. But whatever that way is, there has to be systemic changes in the county and city government, and that is going to rest entirely upon your shoulders. Thank you.
Well said, Senator. Thank you. Any other questions or any other debate? Okay, seeing none. Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Senator Benaquista. Senator Bradley.
Yes.
Senator Gibson.
Yes.
Representative Mayfield.
Yes.
Representative Murphy.
Yes.
Representative Rodriguez.
Yes.
Representative Rawlerson.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Yes.
The motion is adopted.
Motion is adopted. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members.
Thank you, Representative. Okay. Next, we have a request from Representative Fresen for a follow-up audit of the Leon County
Harris, are we good on the DVD change to go on? Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, we're good. Thank you. Good in the back? All right. Ms. Weeks, resume.
Yes, as you can see, that was the latest of the process. How this occurred, I myself, I can't speak for every citizen, but I myself have gone to the city commission meetings for years. Commissioner Flagg, you know that when you were mayor there. I have come here. As you've heard tell, there's been numerous attempts for years by different citizens to address issues at this commission with different departments. FDLE, state representatives, you all were present the night the delegation meeting was held here, as I was, and you heard the request for an audit then. We come here, we don't get answers. I have literally had to threaten a lawsuit to get public records fulfilled. I have had public records requests ignored and still to this day have not gotten some of the documents I've asked for. I don't need to do that anymore. This didn't happen in a little sphere where our own group on our own agenda had some secret plot against you. That's not at all how it occurred. We have been very public, very vocal, very here, asking you for answers, and got nothing. We haven't. So to talk about how you're betrayed, and this is a witch hunt, and it's unjustified, you saw a unanimous vote, okay? You saw that a representative felt we had enough. I will tell you that I had a private meeting with Representative Van Zant to start with. I carried a backpack there that carried files, a laptop that had dozens more files, and said, here you go, this is it. All the financial records I obtained from the county. These are your documents that I used to enact this. And it is not, I'm just dumbfounded that you're taking the position that you are. You have attacked Commissioner Harvey, who has done what the citizens have asked. That's who you work for, us. We pay you. Commissioner Harvey is the only one that I have seen take action on true behalf of the citizens. Everything else I've seen the other four of you do, and Commissioner Leary, and also former County Attorney Castleberry, was stonewall us. We do not have accountability, transparency, and this is what we had to go to and go through to get it. This was a long process. This has taken me years, and here I am today. And I am sorry if you feel offended or that somebody has betrayed you or we didn't go about it in the right way. I don't believe y'all went about it in the right way. And I will say that the accusations, I didn't say they're stealing, they're this, they're that. I'm just saying, look, here it is. There's hundreds of thousands of dollars in differences and unaccounted for, and I'm not getting the answers for it. And I haven't. And you just, you're making such a big stink about it in the paper every day. We've betrayed you. We have not. We have not at all. We want accountability, transparency, and as far as how much notice you got or not,
Please wrap it up if you can, Ms. Weeks.
did you or did you not receive an email from Chris Doolin, who's with the Association of Rural Counties, on the Wednesday prior to Thanksgiving at 8:06 p.m., 5 days prior to this meeting, notifying you?
Thanksgiving Eve at 8:06, you are correct.
That's
the one we got.
correct.
Holiday
Okay.
weekend.
So what? It was a holiday weekend. Commissioner Harvey was still able to be there. What stopped the rest of you from being there on Monday? If you had any dispute or any defense, you should have been there. You were
Wrap it up,
noticed.
Ms. Weeks. You have your 3 minutes.
Excuse me?
You're done? You have your, wrap it up.
Oh, okay. I just think that the fact that you are fighting this and talking about this is no different than the week notice of y'all publishing the agenda, and if we didn't read it ourselves, too bad. We don't have lobbyists and men from the Association of Rural Counties
Ms.
emailing
Wicks.
us. You did.
We're following our ordinance. Okay. Next, we have Rick Haven. Three minutes, please, Mr. Haven.
Oh, really? Your main complaint, like I said, seems to be that you weren't properly notified. Again, this was like a grand jury hearing where you wouldn't have been notified. I didn't see anything in the testimony there that we haven't heard right here in this chamber. I've personally brought you a lot of things. And I get nothing. I asked questions here recently about the fact that all of you underreport your income on your financial statements to the state. And you looked at me like you didn't even know what I was talking about. That's going as well. There, besides those people that went, and I wasn't able to be there, I had to be in Gainesville that morning. There's over a dozen people that have been given the information, submit more information to the Auditor General's office. Before we went there, we all met at Representative Van Zandt's office, and he prefaced the meeting. He says, before we get started, I want you to know that there could be people going to jail. My experience is, you know, and you heard it on there, the mayor and city council people in 2 cities already are in jail or headed that way. You could be some new residents of our new jail. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we got Mr. John Spell.
How everybody doing? It look kind of weary up there, but I would like to tell Mr. Harvey thanks for the effort that he did make. And I'm here to say every one of y'all had a chance and enough time, because on the morning I got ready to go to Tallahassee, I seen Mr. Harvey pulling his camper trailer on his way back into Palaca. Mr. Harvey didn't know anything about it. Everybody kept what was going on to themselves. But see, the main thing is everything that's been going on for the longest that I've been coming in here complaining about the sewage water that Mr. Flagg said he found everything within standard. Then Cow Creek, Mr. Flagg said that he was gonna get something done. But soon as they get some money, then Mr. Eliba wanna do a study. But nobody did a study on all the chemicals and all that.
Hold it right there. Mr. Lible didn't order a study. This is.
Well, what happened to the
standard
money?
This is water management. You're not gonna pull.
Oh, so now you're gonna put it back on water management?
Well, it is. It's an estate requirement, Mr. Spells. Keep going.
But, okay, well, why wasn't it done before they even started digging the ditches anywhere else? Now, you think about the residents that's living down there where all those chemicals actually cesspooling on.
It has to go somewhere.
Well, then let it go to the river. In other words, it kind of remind me of that movie. I seen that movie, White Water Only, and you know, it kind of puts it at the point of, long as it's getting out of their field and going in the black neighborhood, we're gonna keep it out the river. And I find it unfair. I'm not being racist about it, but the way, your way of thinking of saying it got to go somewhere and everybody knowing where it's going.
And when you requested, we started a process.
What was the
If
process?
you're not happy with the time frame of the process, we order the environmental, we get the grant to do it, and we're going forward.
But the thing of it is, why would you even go and clean the other ditches before you even get that started?
You're wanting to deposit this water into the river. That's a possibility. It might not go there, but that's the reason for the study.
But why allow more water to impact on the
I'm not gonna-
community by
I'm not
digging the
gonna debate.
ditches in the field?
I'm not an expert, neither are you. We're gonna let the state decide what's gonna be done with this water in Dog Branch Canal. So if you could wrap up, please, sir, do so.
Well, that's what I'm still saying. You shouldn't have bothered none of the ditches in the field. Therefore, that would reduce the impact on the people on the lower end of it. But see, you only want to do what you want to do instead of heck with the rest of them.
We'll do what the experts tell us to do.
Okay, if it takes an expert, boy, we in trouble still.
All right. Okay, Lou Kamore, Mrs. Lou Kamore.
Great.
Hi.
I'm great. I think that this audit was necessary, although I didn't go to Tallahassee because I had some other things to do. This sort of thing is not only happening in Putnam County. If you look all over the country, cities are going broke, mismanagement of money. And you are the people that we put in here to help us. And all of the taxing and stuff, people don't have money to continuously pay taxes. Where is it coming from? We are the poorest county, economic-wise, health-wise, and and thank you, Mr. Harvey, because a lot of people don't come to the meetings because they feel that they're being shut out. Nobody wants to listen and hear to what the constituents and taxpayers have to say. I live out in the country, and it looks like a demolition zone out there. The grass don't get cut anymore, but we still pay taxes. And it's not fair. Certain people, whomever you are, they are the ones, it's not what you know, it's who you know in this county. Don't get mad with Mr. Harvey. Mr. Harvey haven't done anything. That the people have been walking up here talking. And I stopped coming to the meetings because I was just disappointed in the people that we elected to go up there to work for us. And you do work for us, but like I said previously, the politicians don't work for the people anymore. They work for themselves and what they want and their friends. This is what happened, and you can see it. Mr. Harvey haven't done anything wrong. My father told me once, he said, when you are 18 years old, you register to vote. And you vote like this. I'm a Democrat. But if you got a Republican up there that's going to work for you and adhere to what the constituents say, you vote for him. And that's just the way that I feel. Because a lot of people that are up there aren't doing what they said they was going to do. And about that canal out there, I've sat and watched even walked down there, or Cracker Swamp Road, how many times they have cleaned that canal over in the field. And I tell you this, people are dying, and they ain't just start dying. All of those nutrients and arsenic that's coming from that farm over there is piling up on us. And I got a list of people that have died. Stomach cancer. The water is no good. I don't drink it. The water is bad out there. Why? Because all of that stuff that they plant, fertilizer and stuff that they plant to help the crops grow faster to make $1, we are getting it. My mother died from cancer.
If you could wrap it up, 3 minutes and just a minute. Go ahead.
So, whatever the audit find, I have one more thing to say. If Georgia Pacific can put a pipeline out there in the St. Johns River with all of that poison coming from Georgia Pacific, why can't you clean out the canal over there? And like I said, the lady she can't even buy insurance because she's been flooded.
We will, Ms. Kamore. Thank you. And then Georgia Pacific is following the letter of the law. Okay, that's all the blue cards I have. If anybody would like to approach the podium, please do in an orderly fashion, and please state your name and address for the record. Thank you. Oh.
I'm Elizabeth Bacon Smith, 203 Morrison Road, Interlochen. I don't come armed with data like the previous speakers. I simply want to go on record that this planned audit is long past due. Through the years, as well as in the county commission meetings that I was attending since the landfill issue came up, and I had to stop attending for other reasons more recently, I have heard many grumblings in the commission meetings, in the community, and by speakers speaking directly to you on how things are done, how things have been done. Collusion has been mentioned, sabotage, corruption, violation of sunshine law. It's not a new, suddenly out of nowhere situation. I personally have witnessed major multiple requests for various kinds of information from county officials and county department heads, and the requests have never been honored. They've forgotten, or they don't remember such a request. But it's been a consistent issue. Two wrongs don't make a right, and proper procedures as to notification on this audit request could have been done better. But a lot of things haven't been done properly here either, but that's where two wrongs don't make a right come in. So if all comes through okay with the audit, all the better. If all things do not come through okay, all the better. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Okay, yes, sir. Hang on just a second, Mr. K. Moore. I got Mr. Stay right there, stay close.
My
You're
name's
on
Dan
deck.
Phillips, 109 Karen Court, here in Putnam County. Appalling and distressing. Mr. Harvey, sir, you have thrown civics right out the window. 240 years ago, we won our independence from a country that could just go and abuse the people because they just didn't like what they might have had in their bag or their wagon. They said, we're going to look and we're going to inspect. Well, if you don't have anything that would cause any problems, it ought to be okay to let them inspect. And that's the attitude that's taken place with you, sir, with Mr. Van Zant, and that meeting we saw up in Tallahassee. One lady wanted to know, why didn't local government take care of local government problems? Well, folks, just not too long ago, Palatka did just that. The city of Palatka did not care for some of the folks that were on the city commission, and they didn't call a Tallahassee meeting. They didn't write some letters, and we heard I'm not going to say the name calling we just heard here. I mean, that's almost a felony to call people by some of those names if you can't prove it. They just voted some of those folks out of office. We don't like what's going on. I'll tell you what, there's no power greater than God's kingdom and the ballot box. So if you don't like what's going on, use the ballot box. If you don't like what's going on and you can't prove it, do what your mom and daddies taught you some time ago. Keep your mouth shut. Now, God ordained government. And if there is anybody in government that has abused that ordained power that God has granted to them, you and I will never ever be able to face a worse punishment than somebody that abused what God gave them. Please, please, we've got to support this silly audit coming through. And Miss Nancy, you're right. We have no idea when it's coming. So we got this black cloud and all these bad names hanging over Putnam County and Palatka until somebody decides to send some folks in and do the audit. And Mr. Van Zandt is convinced that there are going to be some things wrong because they found some things wrong someplace else. And so we're going to be living under that name for who knows how long. And then when the audit is over with, we know what's going to happen. People are going to remember the bad stuff. They're not going to remember the good. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips.
Yes, sir.
Oh, thank you, sir. Mr. Kmore.
Leroy Camo, 111117 Gladys Avenue, East Palatka, Florida. Thank you, Mr. Harvey, for going with us. I'm deeply disappointed today in the commission. For the last 2 months will be 6 years I've been coming up here. And I've been begging for one thing. Y'all was sitting right up there and y'all knew why y'all wasn't opening that canal across the road. That night when I asked Mr. Van Zant in the meeting, I found out then because Mr. Lauber got up and told him he wasn't opening up the canal because of all the nutrients. That is the arsenic. And you're leaving it right in there on us. Every time it rains, it cesspools in there. All of you know that. So you're actually poisoning all the people that's in that area, white and black. Nobody tell nobody nothing, but 5 times this year, you have cleaned the canal right on the other side of the road and dumped the water in there. And I was surprised. Nobody said nothing. So all that was, you just leave us in there and hope that we live another year for another tax dollar.
Mr. Kmore, where'd that water used to go?
In the river.
And who closed the canal, Mr. Kmore?
Y'all wouldn't clean it out. That's how it started.
Who closed it?
Nature.
No, sir. The Water Management District closed it.
How they closed it, Mr. Chip? The canal's still there.
That we were not allowed to dump it in the water at some point in time before I ever got here. And we've been trying to seek a way to do something with it since, sir. Your voice is heard. We've been working hard to get you resolved.
But look like everybody.
I'm sorry it's not going as fast as you would like.
Mr. Chip, I've been out there 50 years.
I know, sir, and I respect that.
And they started cleaning that property, and all of a sudden, for no reason that us taxpayers know anything about, they just don't clean the canal no more. And I found it out the other couple of months ago in that meeting.
I'm very sorry you didn't realize that. I thought you knew it.
Didn't know.
Well,
I
we
done
know
like
now.
some of the rest of the people. I would have tried to move out too.
Yes, sir. We're working towards it.
Yeah, but I may not be here to live to see it.
I
Mr.
got
Chairman,
you. Yes.
I have personally traveled the route of the Dog Branch Canal. We have secured, to my understanding, funding
We
for a
have.
2-phase project. We've received 100% funding for phase 1 of the 2-phase project so that we can get resolution rather than a Band-Aid on this Dog Branch project. I respect the patience of all concerned. If Flag had a magic wand, I would wave it over this county. We don't have that. We have some processes, procedures, we have regulations, both local and state, and we're doing all we know to do to enhance the quality of living in this county. Personally, I've only been here 3 years. I don't know how much longer I'll be here. That's going to be up to God and the community. But the truth of the whole matter is, I'm not ashamed of the progress that we have made and that we are making as a team. Some feel the need to defend Commissioner Harvey. Commissioner Harvey know where I stand. I have nothing but love and respect for all of my colleagues, and that is how I came, that's how I will leave. So all of the things about what we're doing and what we're not doing, I respect sunshine laws. I do not talk to these commissioners unless I'm inquiring about how their family is doing. I respect your position. I respect the position of the citizens that are here. But at the end of the day, we have tough decisions and little or no revenue that is specified for these projects. So now that the state has allocated the funds for the engineering to be done so that we can have complete resolution to the Dog Branch issue, we're getting more punishment now that we're making progress than we were getting before the issue was ever even being, addressed, because again, county dollars were not identified, or even there was no ability to allocate it. Now that we are on a roll to get this issue resolved, we actually getting more reprimand and more punishment about Dog Branch when we didn't have a dime. Now we do have some funding. If I'm out of order, please correct me.
You're not out of order. That's exactly what's occurring.
I'd like to.
Mr. Harris.
Reverend Kamor, we have been listening to you, and we have been moving forward in trying to fix this. There's so many things we can do. We're like you. There's lots of rules and regulations, and we have to follow them also. We did not shut the canal. It was done by another agency, and we have to figure out a way to treat what's in there and fix it. And we're in a learning process too. I didn't know that the canal had nutrients and things. That's why we have engineers and why they're requiring us to do that, so we can do it safely. But let me say this. We got the first half of the grant to do the study to show what we can do and how to open the canal. We are applying for the second half of the grant so we can actually get out there and get the work done. But unfortunately, with what's going on and with the black cloud over Putnam County, do you think we're going to get the second half through, or anyone in the legislature who's been voted in is going to want to help a county that's so corrupt and dishonest as described by that committee? They're not going to want to do anything for us until that audit is done and we're proven innocent. And we're just in a terrible position, and I think that you probably didn't mean to, but I think you've stopped the progress of that and everything else for money before the state
We
legislature.
haven't had any progress. We haven't had any progress.
Order.
We have not had any progress. We only got the grass cut out our way one time this year. And I think they cut it because we were having a Fifth Sunday Union or something. But they don't do nothing out there. If the water is so bad, why do every time the weatherman forecasts a big rain, I see the excavator over there in the field across the road? They make a straight shot right over there to cesspool, and that's what the water doing, cesspooling in there on us. If it's so bad, don't clean the other side of the road. Let everybody have a little of the problem. Ain't no need of us having it all.
Well, I don't really know exactly how the county Public Works Department works, or that they did that, and they're not here to answer, or we would be asking, but I just want you to know, I sit in the workshops. I mean, we're here before you, and when we go to the workshops, we constantly say we have got to work on Dog Branch Creek. Commissioner Pelletier mentioned it the other day and said, what are we doing? What can we do? I don't want anything to stop the progress we've got. So you may feel that we're not doing things, but I assure you that we do care and we do try.
Because we don't get nothing out of our way but a tax bill. And the mailman bring that. I wish y'all would bring them at least on a little scooter or something. We'd see somebody. But that's just the way I feel.
Thank you for expressing your feelings, Mr. Chairman. Pastor K. Moore, I have personally met you on Gladys Avenue on numerous occasions. I have taken notes. We've had Public Works, all of those people there. So for individuals to say that you've got nothing and we've done zero, I think all of us need to be honest and realistic about what we're saying. Zero is a zero. That means absolutely unequivocally nothing, and that is not the case. because this commissioner, and I hear you saying that other commissioners have responded to your call, and I just want to make sure that all of us are being fair. I believe our citizens are here today because we're passionate about the issues that are before us. We are likewise passionate. However, we are working with our citizens and with your tax dollars to the very best of our abilities, and it does not always come out as quickly as we desire.
The reason I'm holding my hand, I have not lost that throat.
All right.
The proof is in the pudding.
Yes, sir.
That's your word. We ain't got no pudding.
Okay.
We ain't got.
You have to
nothing.
keep praying and waiting on the pudding.
My knees so, Reverend.
All right, well,
My
Okay,
knees
Morris,
so.
I
Stand
think
up and pray.
Mr. Pelletier has a question.
I don't have a question, I just have a comment. When that canal was created out there, that was in the days of old, where you just went out and you dug and you saw you need to get the water to the river and you made the canal. There was no water management district, there was no regulations, it was just done. Whether that was good, bad, or indifferent, that's the way it was. It's a different day today. I'm not saying I agree with it, I'm just telling you we gotta go by policies and procedures and do what water management says, or we're gonna be in trouble with them. Does that make sense?
All that makes sense, but the proof is in the pudding.
I
That
understand
mill
that.
runs 24/7. And if you hold 3 or 4 tankers in that river with enough water, it diluted. But the little water coming out that canal in that whole big river,
Mr. Kmore, if you could wrap it up, sir, and let me get some other folks that might
I'm
want to
gonna
speak.
wrap it up. Well, we haven't seen anything done. But every time it rains, we see the county excavator digging across the road. And that water come to 207, and sometime it be so high, it be boiling coming out from under the state road. But it's cesspools in there on us.
Thank you, sir, for your comment. Okay, let's have Faye Sparkman, then we'll do Barron, and then we'll do you, sir.
Can we take a break?
You have-
After Faye, can we take a break?
Yes, we can.
I did give you a card, but don't be afraid of a state audit. I had many. Don't be afraid of a state audit. When I worked for the state, I had a lot of them. As long as you keep your paperwork in fact, you have nothing to worry about. I do want it. I'll tell you why. We have been up here and up here and up here. Whether the money's not here or not, somebody has to find what happened to it. And Mr. Flagg, you were stated in there that we should have came to you. We've came to you. Matter of fact, when we filed all the grievances against the road department, I asked all of you for help. I got none. So I sent them to Pam Bomney and to the governor. Guess what? I got letters back that they said they sent them to you. The governor's office and Pam Bomney's office have told us to work with our local government. That's you. We've tried. We've been up here. We've been begging. The roads, no mowing, nothing. And don't blame Mr. Harvey. I've had many meetings with Mr. Van Zandt. After he was here with Senator Hudson, that night we stood in line and we asked what to do. We emailed him to do an audit to see what has happened so that we can get the roads done, because all I hear from all of you is there's no money. It's got to be somewhere. So I'm going to put these 3 letters in your public comments so that you can see. Mr. Flagg, I don't know why you never got back with us after she sent you this letter. I don't know.
Mr.
Okay,
Flagg.
let's not say that I didn't get back, because that is not accurate. Anytime we have an issue related to county government, it's my role and responsibility to respect the procedures. We have a legal department. We have an attorney as well as a deputy attorney. And if there are issues that perhaps may or may not involve future litigation, you do not handle it on the same manner as if you are calling because the right-of-ways are not cut. You handle those totally different. And in all due respect, when a request has any legal ramifications or the potential legal ramification, that information is forwarded to the legal department for them to follow due process. And because of sunshine laws, again, we don't just come out and start speaking about what the strategies are of the county when you're dealing with these type of issues. I depend on, again, the expertise of those who have proper law degrees, to do their due diligence, do the research, and at the appropriate time, verify the contracts, verify the contractors, verify the complaint. All of those things do take time, and I do not openly in public meetings bring up issues that are in the legal department until such time there is a finding. The same thing that the Attorney General's office will tell you, the same thing that the State Attorney's office will tell you, the same thing that the Florida Department of Law Enforcement will tell you. Once that issue is in their hand and there is, quote, an investigation underway, you do not just go and parade it. That's not how I operate. I'm not trying to seek any brownie points from anyone. I am certainly trying to do my very best to be receptive and responsive to the issues and the needs of our citizens. And I don't grandstand. I'm just going to be honest. I don't grandstand. If there are issues that needs to be handled through another commissioner, I follow protocol. I go to the administrator so that that administrator can relay it to another commissioner. That's just the way it is. I am by the book. Thank you.
The problem was we turned in all the notarized grievances. We came to you, we didn't get any help. So I in turn sent a copy of them to Van Bomney. She sent it back. She said she sent it to you because you were chairman of the board, also Mr. Castleberry. We never heard anything more. So that's why I wanted an audit. I want to know what's going on, why we didn't have mowing this year, why we didn't follow the Clean Air Act for people who can't breathe. There's something wrong, so the audit should show if there's money missing or where it is, but you guys should have nothing to worry about. An audit is nothing.
I don't think anyone up here is worried. If that's the appearance on our foreheads, then forgive us, because we're not worried about an audit.
But just so you all understand, none of us went to Mr. Harvey telling him what we were doing.
You
with
keep
Mr.
bringing Mr. Harvey up and no one is addressing Mr. Harvey. We're addressing an audit. You know.
I'm just telling you, we did not go to Mr. Harvey and tell him that we were talking with Mr. Van Zandt. He didn't know till he got there. He didn't know who was coming. If my husband and I could have been there, we'd have been there too. Thank you.
Ms. Sparkman, Ms. Sparkman, a quick comment. You come to almost every meeting, so I'm sure you've heard the name Carr, Riggs, and Ingram. No?
I've come to every meeting. I think out of 18 or 19 years, I've only missed 2 years, and that was when I was in a wheelchair, and they told me I'd never walk again.
Well, I'm glad you're up and walking.
That's why I come here, because I want to know what's going on, and all we want is answers. Why some of this stuff can't be done. And so maybe now with the audit, it'll help you understand where your finances went. I don't know.
We'll say it again, Carr, Riggs, and Ingram is an independent auditor that the county hires to do our books. They're well-known and well-respected audits. When they come in and they do their audit, if they found some misappropriation of funds and brought it to our attention, and we were wanting to sweep it under the carpet, don't you think those people would jump up and down and say, we're done with Putnam County, we're out of here? And bring it to the forefront and say, well, you know, we're telling you there's X amount of dollars amiss in some wild hocus pocus fund. Don't you think they would do that? And then they would be done with us and they'd come to the light?
To me, I would hope everybody would have respect on both sides, which either way it comes out. I just want to know where all the money went so that you guys have more money to work with. Maybe none of you know either.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Our clerk normally sits extremely quiet and attentive in our meetings. But I think that what's being alleged here has a direct impact on not just this Board of County Commissioners. I think it says something about the clerk of the court, who has a constitutional responsibility to this county. And that role as clerk of court has that same constitutional authority and oversight throughout the state of Florida in all of our 67 counties. And if, Mr. Chairman, you would, Mr. Smith, if you would, just kind of give us, show the separation of power and authority that exists in this county and all other counties for that matter, please.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. My role as a constitutional officer means that I am independent of the Board of County Commissioners, and it is set up that way so that I don't work for you. Right. And I always kind of feel like Mr. Harvey does. I work for the 73,000 people that live in this community. I don't work for the governor. I'm independent, and I'm independent for a reason, and that is so that as the watchdog and as your comptroller, my responsibility is to watch the expenditures the revenue that comes in to the Board of County Commissioners. We then, in turn, you contract with Carr Riggs Ingram as our county auditor. They perform an annual financial audit once a year, and I will tell you that they spend upwards to 3 months a year in our office going through all of our records, all of the revenues that come in, all the expenditures, and then they make a report based on that. So to your point, I can assure you that if I knew something was missing or inappropriate, I'd be the first one to stand up along with the auditors. Why would we risk our reputation and the role that we have in the community to not do that? And so our financial audit over the last 16 years has actually received an award from the Government Finance Officers Association, who does a independent, thorough investigation of how we report our financial statements in our county. And we've been awarded that Award of Excellence for the 16 years I've been clerk, and the county got it many years before that when Ed Brooks was the clerk. And so that's the role that we have. And so, but I also want to go one step further and let you know that I had a meeting with our auditors and with my finance director and explained to them that the operational audit was requested. That's different than a financial audit. They will look at the finance audit, but they don't want to duplicate that work because the Attorney General's office will know, the Auditor General's office, excuse me, will know based on the reputation of the audit team that we have in the company that they're reliable, that they're trustworthy, and they also understand that they would not ruin their reputation to try to hide some missing funds. Now, can people look at the financial statements and not understand them? Absolutely. They're complicated. They're complicated to me, and I look at them all the time based on what projected revenue is, particularly like when you talk about Better Place plans. You're talking about a 15-year plan. You estimate what you think revenues are. Those revenues never come in exactly what you think they are. So someone could say, well, you said there was going to be X number of dollars, and it's this. Well, it could be that tax revenue fell that year for some reason, and we all know over the past 7 years that's happened in pretty much every county in the state of Florida. Tax revenues have not been what they were projected to be. So there are differences. But what I did was I had asked them to come in, and then I also talked to Representative Van Zant yesterday afternoon. And I assured him that the clerk's office and my staff will do everything we can to meet the intent and the letter of the request for an audit, that we will do that with professionalism. We will do everything we can to answer every question that's asked of us, and that we have nothing to hide. We think if there was, those would have already been identified in audits. And then in the end, and we got a lot of really smart people in here in this room, a lot smarter than I am. Somehow we have to find a way to get to the end of this. And this meeting today had to happen because we got to air this stuff. And then we come back together and we say, now, how do we move forward and how do we answer those questions? And so from the small part that my office will have with that and our relationship with the auditing company, Carr Riggs Ingram, we're going to do our part in that to move forward. I don't get to make any of the laws. I don't get to make any rules. We follow rules in our office, and we're going to do everything we can to assure the public that what the answers, the questions they've had, that there's answers, and then we'll look together to try to find a way to get that message out. And if things are found to be not exactly as they should be, there'll be findings, and then we'll move forward to correct those. And on the other end of that, now, we're going to be in a better position because those questions will quit being asked constantly at this meeting. And so that's the role that we have, and that's my hope for this process. Because I do think in the end, we're going to be a much better county because we've answered these questions. It's going to be hard, and people are going to have to do a lot of work, you know, that they might not have staff and time to do, but all of us are incumbent to do that. And then on the other side of this, we need to have civility and folks that are willing to work hard and move this county forward. And I don't put the blame on any person, and I don't excuse any person that's in this process. From my office to your office to Representative Van Zant, we all have a part in this, and whoever the representative after that's going to be. It's time to answer these questions, get this behind us, move forward, and make this county great as we know it can be. Because I want my kids and my grandkids to have opportunities to live in this county and have a great life like I've had. And I've been very blessed to be able to do that. And I've had so many people in my life that have helped me, and we can all help each other to move this forward. And so those are my comments, and I thank you for letting me make them.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. We appreciate that. Okay. I've been asked that we do a 5-minute recess, and we'll keep it to 5. And if our auditor is with us today, if you guys would like to comment, Tina, we'd be glad to have you here, and we'll keep the rotation of speakers going, but you come first when you come back. Okay? Real close.
Tina Robinson with Carr Riggs and Ingram at 906 South State Road 19. And thank you. Really just a couple of brief comments, and part of that is really just to reiterate some things. As you know, the audit that's been called for by the Joint Legislative Auditing Committee is done under the Florida statutes, is permitted under the Florida statutes 1145. And my understanding is that the Auditor General has not yet set the scope of their audit, so they will plan those procedures, and it could include, most likely will be performance, financial, controls. They'll look at things like that, but again, they have to set that scope, so I can't really speak directly for them. But then I also wanted to say that every local government, including the county, city, special districts, all are required to have an annual financial audit. So that is not new to this county. They undergo an audit every single year by statute, and that's under 21839 that they're required to have that. So, as independent auditors, we look at the financial numbers. We have to be able to do tests, gather evidence, to do risk assessments, to enable us to issue an opinion, professional opinion, that those financial statements and the financial statement disclosures are materially correct. Does that mean there can't be some, error? There could be, but we believe they are materially correct and have been during the time that we have conducted the audits. Those financial audits have to be done under professional standards, including generally accepted auditing standards, government auditing standards, and because you receive grants from the federal and state, it has to be done under the Single Audit Act. So all of those regulations we have to follow in conducting the audits that we do. And in my experience, this county, the staff, management, the departments that we have had to gather information from have been very cooperative in providing information to us. We've never had a problem in obtaining that necessary information in order to be able to conduct our tests. And so I, just want to say I know that the Auditor General is going to find no difference, that they will also be provided willingly with the information that's requested from management here.
Hey, hang on just a second. Commissioners, any questions or comments for Mrs. Robertson?
No, thank you for speaking up and explaining that.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Okay, thank you very much, Tina.
Thank you for the exceptional performance financial audits that you all do for this county each year. You're very thorough annually when you present, and you answer all of our questions. You also drill down and explain when there is a finding there, and you help keep us in check and balance. And so we appreciate the firm and the standards and the respect that you have throughout this state. We respect that and appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else from the public? Public comment? Get your name and address for the record, please, sir.
Ronald Rukowitz, 106 Taylor Street out in Interlochen. I've been sitting there in the back and listening to both sides of this debate. One thing that I find interesting is going back to the very video that we watched. I hear 4 county commissioners begrudgingly saying that they were blindsided, they didn't know this was coming, we weren't properly noticed of it. And then, but I look at the very video that we just watched, and it's not as if this wasn't, I mean, even the chairman of that board listed empirical evidence that was placed before him, as well as in front of Representative Van Zant. So I don't see how, with the parties that have been in front of this body themselves, saying these things for months, if not the last year, who have also been going to Representative Van Zant, that it could have fallen on your deaf ears, but not with Representative Van Zant. So, I mean, that word empirical evidence doesn't get used surreptitiously. I mean, it's not something that's just thrown out there for any old thing. These were not based upon opinion. This was based upon paperwork provided by your own agencies. Okay, these are discrepancies that are listed, and I wholeheartedly believe that this nice lady that just spoke up here has done the best possible job that she can. However, those discrepancies still exist in the very documents that were provided by the county.
Mr. Ruckowitz, with all due respect, though, those discrepancies you're speaking of have not been proven. So let's wait until a professional set of eyes see that document.
But doesn't that audit, shouldn't that audit be what proves that that situation?
It will.
Should we go over here and put our heads in the sand and say, oh, well, this just doesn't look, I mean, it looks bad, but no, it's nothing, we can't prove it, we move on along. No, you have someone come in and you look at it, and you find out if it's the truth. If it's the truth, you do what needs to be done. That's the point. That's the whole point of this audit. Okay. It's not to make any one individual look bad or this body look bad. It's to find out the truth, plain and simple.
Audit. Absolutely. We welcome the audit. Okay, anybody else from the public? Mr. Tim Hotelling.
Tim Hotelling, San Mateo. I'd just like to, sort of like a footnote to watching all of Reverend Cable's stuff in the Dog Branch thing that y'all get to talk about so often. Of recently, Robert Bly and ourselves were talking and exploring it, and I don't think that the public, perhaps not even yourself, realize what a massive amount of these little farm drain fields all feed into this thing, and more importantly, there's a little sign that says St. John's Water Management Company, or whatever they are, district, and they have pumps that pump stuff out. It's really a big deal that I could never appreciate from all the verbiage that went on. I'd like to request that you all have a show and tell from Public Works to explain it. The question in my mind is, why is it your problem when it's got St. John's River Water Management District signs and they're there at the bottom end? You do better with more information, that's all.
Commissioner Harvey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've said from this seat a few months back, and I'll continue to say, years ago, the county dug the Dog Branch Canal out. Water management slapped us on the hand for doing that. And I have been to water management. Water management will give us a scope of work that we are allowed to do. They've already agreed to whatever, if we want to sit down with them, they will do that. Our public works director knows that. So we could go in there tomorrow and do the scope of work that they will allow us to do. This other thing is a study that says, how do we move this water out? And then come to find the funding for it. So it's really based on the fact that years ago, the county at that point just did it without conferring with water management. And water management's now saying, if you want to do it again, come to us and we'll let you know what you can do. That's all.
Again, a big part of my complaints are that y'all don't get a lot of the information you deserve, and I know that it'd help the public to understand why we forever get to hear all about Dog
Let me
Ranch.
share something with you, if I could. You finished with Mr. Harvey?
Yes, sir, yes.
There's right up north of Dog Branch Canal, there's a series of canals that come into a canal, and they go to a place called Merrifield. It was designed by Water Management District. I encourage you to ride up East River Road, 207A, and take a look at that. You will find big sediment ponds, for lack of better words. They're actually runoff ponds for evaporation and stuff, and they clean up the runoff. And it was an experimental project. They clean it up and then discharge it into the St. Johns River, nutrient-free or within the limits that they set for themselves. The same thing needs to be done and probably will be prescribed for the Dog Branch Canal. Mr. Leary, it is Merrifield, isn't it? I'm unsure on the name. I wanna make
Whatever,
sure.
I'll find it out. I just
It's Merrifield, yes.
Merrifield on the St.
Again, I
Johns.
think
Yeah.
the public
But
and you
let me explain this. Every time the Water Management District gets new leadership, they, 2 years ago, they wanted to give us that project. And they wanted us to take it, and we researched it, and they sent a team out here. The two pumps that move all this stuff are $100,000 apiece. We rejected their offer. And now they're still cleaning it up. I think it's their job to do this. And, you know, there's been a lot of finger pointing. It's smoky and foggy, but this commission has grabbed it. We have funding, and we're going to get this resolved.
I just,
Yes.
We're in partnership with them.
We are.
Working together on it, okay.
yeah, it'd be easier to digest if people knew the scope of it, and it's.
This has been
it's
discussed
massive.
many times in the sunshine, and I don't know where it gets lost, but it seems to get lost. It's not exactly a high-priority subject. Nobody really wants to talk. It's not like talking about football.
In this case, a picture's worth a whole bunch of words, because when I, did the Google Maps thing, it's massive. So, anyway,
Okay.
just-
Thank you. Anybody else from the public?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Killebrew, come forward, please, sir. Is everybody hungry? We are.
You can look and see.
Ed Killebrew, 146 Barden Estates Circle. I just got a statement and then a question. The statement being that when y'all had that legislative meeting with the legislative body here that night, the group that's obviously left now was addressed, and they were told to go find one person and have that person be their spokesperson and bring it back to y'all. Y'all being the county commission.
Right.
And what I don't like about it is that that was never done. That was never, as far as I know. And I mean, was that ever done?
No.
Okay. And then they take off, with our representative to Tallahassee. I just want to make that clear that I saw that and I heard that night. My question is, yes, ma'am, Ms. Harris.
Oh, I was just going to say, I never heard Van Zant say anything about an audit. I heard him say, collect information and say, we'll do something. But I don't know, let's see, Chip, you were sitting there. Did you hear anything
No,
about
not
an
at all.
audit? That was not a forewarning to us that we were going to have an audit at all.
I talked to our senator and our state rep after the meeting too, and it was not mentioned.
Okay, my question is, and Ms. Harris, you alluded to it a minute ago, about, and I just want an answer. And this may say all this may sound very simple to the audience, but it's just on my mind. With this audit taking place and everything, monies that have been secured through grants and things like that, and future monies, are in jeopardy right now because of this audit. Am I correct?
All our legislative appropriations
Probably
that we've been
frozen.
jockeying for, we've been told by our lobbyists are probably in jeopardy
And
until
so
this is settled.
basically, everything that we've gone forward to do in Putnam County is stopped now.
Mr. Rode we had a conversation at the break, and his estimate, and he's been around and seen this a long time, we've just put ourselves backwards about 5 to 10 years.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Killebrew. Anybody else from the public? Hello, Mr. Joe Pickens, a man with a lot of experience at this level.
Joe Pickens, 125 Woodbury Trail, Satsuma, Florida. I had no idea that this is what our democratic government had devolved into until I sat here for 4 hours and witnessed it. If I had the ability to speak as well as Tim Smith, I'd have been a senator instead of a representative. So I'm not going to repeat or try to what he said. But I'll tell you this. As somebody that wasn't born in Putnam County, because the hospital was in DeLand, but was brought home 3 days later to the same place where my father was born, and to live in this community for 57 years and observe what I have seen today, this has nothing to do, my comments, frankly, about an audit. Audits are a way of life. The college, we get audited on our financials, on our operations, on our financial aid. Even the president's contract gets audited every year. But to witness the lack of decorum and respect for fellow human beings, much less fellow Palatkins and Putnam Countyans, is something that is absolutely shocking to me. I'm not going to comment on how and Mr. Van Zant chose to perform the duties of his office. That's his choice. It's his office, not mine. But I will tell you that it does occur to me that to write a letter to the Joint Auditing Committee that impacts each of you as elected officials as well as 5 city commissioners on November the 2nd, with plenty of time to simply copy you on it, I'd have probably done that. But to not even copy our state senator is something that I believe is not just an oversight. I hope in my heart and in my soul that that was an oversight and not deliberate. I hope in my heart and in my soul that that was not deliberate. As somebody who is invested in this county, I look forward to the results of the audit as much as you do. And once we're beyond it, as Mr. Smith said, I hope that we will learn to treat each of us in this room, because you became elected official, is not a reason or an excuse to abuse you as a human being or not respect you as a human being. Disagreeing with you is just fine, and we all will. But I want to compliment you for the decorum and the demeanor that you have maintained today and apparently in other meetings like this. It was very impressive to me. And again, that has nothing to do with an audit. It has to do with my observations of the conduct and the human spirit of you ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Pickens. Anyone else from the public? Seeing none, I think we'll move on with the agenda. We'll take a 5-minute recess. You think we need to do that?
Well, yes, we've got the 2 letters that have been proposed. I think that the full board needs to Needs to make a determination as to whether one or both of those letters should be sent, signed by the chair.
Okay, thank you, council. Commissioners, you've heard the request. What is your pleasure?
Move approval.
Second.
A motion and a second?
Is that on both letters?
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah, I read 'em.
stated so. Okay, any further discussion? Hearing
Call
none.
for the question.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, likewise. It carries. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
could we finish this meeting after lunch?
I think that's a very fine request.
But Mr. Chairman, in all fairness to the people that are here, if there's any closing comments on this issue, I'd rather us do that before we recess. If there's any other comments on that, and then I would certainly concur that we should recess if any commissioner is gonna talk about this. I don't want us
Start
to.
with the chair. I have none.
I welcome the audit. I'm all ready for it. I don't think it's gonna be
I have
anything that
one
we don't already
thing.
know.
Okay, Commissioner Harris?
Okay. One thing that we've been hearing over and over, and there's no response to, is about the strong county administrator and his authority, and that certain of us, you know, always do what he wants or votes that way. And I just wanted to clarify that a little bit, that we hired Mr. Leary around 2000. I was here to hire him. He has earned our respect. He has been a great administrator. We have learned to trust him. Part of his job is to make recommendations to us and to give us direction of how he thinks we should go on certain things. We don't always do what he said. In fact, to that point, the landfill issue, which was huge and very important for us, was a 3-2 vote. 2 of us voting the way we felt we were recommended, and 3 of us voting the way that we thought was best. So I think he has earned our respect, and I really didn't know what his salary was. When you've been in a position for a number of years and you get merits for the longest time you've been there, and you know what you've done, your salary climbs up, as it should be when you are in a position for a long time. On the $25,000 discretionary money, that is money that is spent for the county on different issues that he doesn't have to come to the board and get permission to use. It is strictly for county business and not for his personal use. And you need that. You can't always call a meeting together, you know, to get, so he has that limited amount of money that he can make a decision on. And I have appreciated him and what he's had to go through all these years. I have learned to respect him and trust his judgment. And I really appreciate him. And it's one thing to be an elected person and to be criticized. I don't think we really asked for it, but we put ourselves out there, so it's something that you can do. But I don't think that our administrator should be so criticized, and especially one that has done as good a job as he has. And I just wanted to lay that.
Concur completely. Mr. Flagg.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Again, I do have to drill down on the reality of the audit is welcomed and embraced and anticipated. I don't have issues there. But the lack of specificity in the allegations and the accusations and the innuendos and the relativity, just calling the name Hampton, unless you're speaking about somebody's last name, calling the name Hampton as a city and comparing that to us in writing before statewide television, et cetera, that makes my blood boil. I flat out I denounce any comparison or whatsoever. Talk about me, talk about my family, don't talk about my integrity. When that is under attack, then there are some issues there. Let's let the auditors do what they specialize in doing. My issue from day one has been in the process, the procedure, and the protocol, and the threshold that was required of this committee to make this thing happen. So let's get on with the business of Putnam County. Let's prepare ourselves for a Merry Christmas. Let's reconcile the differences that citizens have with us. But at the end of the day, let's not put it all together. Dog Branch has nothing to do, with an audit. A road being paved, their council, administration, and our legal counsel drill down on that to assure us that all of those details were worked out just like they should have been worked out. But the conspiracy theory, all of the hard work of, I say, this commission, of our staff, is being thrown down the tube because of an instigating letter and what I call a public-private meeting. We are not saying what we ought to say as it relates to Mr. Dooling's email. We get email from the Small County Coalition because we are a member. We get mail daily advising us of what's happening throughout our state as it relates to small counties. So at the end of the day, I believe that Mr. Dooling was just doing a courtesy by sending that out. There was never any notification officially from the state of Florida, whether it was the House, whether it was the Senate, whether it was the committee, the subcommittee, a staff of the committee. That has not happened until such time we received the letter from dated the 2nd of December, I believe it is, that pretty much says what we saw on live TV. I don't want Mr. Harvey to feel alienated or ostracized, anything of that nature. I want Mr. Harvey to understand that while we do not rubber stamp each other, we flat out are a team. And we've got to operate like a team. There is no I in team. Although I am the past chair, I do not take for granted my colleagues. And if I'm getting ready to do something to represent us, I want a consensus before I go out, even though I can say I'm talking as a private citizen. I'm not a private citizen. I'm an elected official. And I've got to represent me, my family, my community, my colleagues, and this county as a whole. And all of us must do that. We do understand there's a learning curve for every one of us. I'm still learning. I've been in a public office for a few years now. I very humbly serve, but at the end of the day, we have done some things right. We've done some things wrong. We acknowledge when we have done things wrong, and we learn. We call them teachable moments. This is not a circus performance, and this is not a clown show. We're talking about the future of our community, and I'm very passionate about it. When a person, it doesn't matter what their name, rank, and serial number is, where they come from, where they think they're going. If you want to really get me flustered, you talk about God, talk about Putnam County, you talk about Palatka and my family, and its own, because we have a fiduciary responsibility that I take extremely serious. And I appreciate the patience of our citizens. I appreciate the leadership in the community, but I do not appreciate those individuals who keep talking about what they have heard. Everybody have heard. Everybody have overheard, and it's enough of that. Gossip kills. The gospel heals, and it's just time out for that stuff that is divisive in our community up there. We should have had due process. We should have had an opportunity to be invited to the hearing, only to hear it directly and to give any response that this committee felt we should have given. If they didn't want a response, all well and good. But I just think that it was a cheap shot. I don't hold them as hostages on this situation, because I think that they probably thought about it after the fact, and that they would have considered tabling this issue had they really drilled down on it. But because one of their colleagues brought it to them, they felt like they had to take action on it immediately, and they did. Let's do it. Audit, come on. Let's do it.
Thank you for those comments. Yes. And if I could, I want to also share something. I wasn't going to do it, but in defense of Mr. Castleberry and Mr. Leary, when I got here as a young elected, and look at his hair, it turned white. But we had big challenges. The jail was falling apart. The East Palatka Water and Sewer Project the bond had been revoked, I think, twice. Mr. Leary, Mr. Castleberry grabbed those projects at our request, and a bunch of other big ones. We moved it forward, even through the worst recession since the 30s. And that's to be commended. It really is. I mean, we moved an agenda, a heavy agenda, and I'm going to say this, without the help of a state rep. Mr. Leary and Mr. Castleberry found that funding. They moved it forward, and we have all the confidence in them. And I'm gonna say it just like it was. I never saw Mr. Van Zant, not once. And I'll end with that. Anybody else?
I just want to say one more thing. There's something that's kind of been left hanging about public information. There is a way to get information, and you submit a request right through our office, and that can be traced.
Well, most of the public records requests, all the public records requests, as a matter of fact, go through the county attorney's office. And he coordinates the responses. And to the best of my knowledge, all public records requests that have been funneled through the county attorney's office have been responded to.
Okay.
And while I've got floor, may I thank you for your comments, Commissioner Harris. And this board employed me to make administrative decisions and to make recommendations which you can accept or reject or amend as you see fit. And by the way, I have given no consideration to retirement.
Thank you, sir.
Glad to have that clear. Okay. Let me just finish.
You are triple A.
What I wanted to say is, so we've been accused of public record requests that have not been answered. That could be traced and checked out and probably will be in the audit. But the thing that, like Mr. Ruckowitz was saying, you know, all this information from us came to Van Zant's, why wouldn't we know about it? The record requests were answered. She said she took a backpack to Representative Van Zant's office full of information that she got from us, public records and things. So those were responded to, and that's what she took to them. So it wasn't that it came from us and that we would have knowledge. And I just kind of wanted to clarify that. And
You're not just a realtor, you are an investigator. We appreciate you drilling down on that.
Mr. Castleberry, you have comments?
Yeah, I just, just one thing following up on Ms. Harris. One of the things that, one of the complaints made to the committee was that Mr. Leary had too much power. He ran the county on a day-to-day basis. He drafted ordinances, which I wish that were a true statement, then I wouldn't have had to do it. But anyway, those comments were made several times about the county administrator having too much power. And at least one of the people, maybe two on the committee, basically said, that's something y'all have to handle at home. That's not gonna be part of this audit. It's not something the committee can do. What has happened is through the course of time, either through express written agreements or by course of practice based on the working relationship, y'all have vested a lot of authority in Mr. Leary, as you should have. But one of the things you can address right now is the board comfortable with that level of authority or not? And only the board can change that. It's like I used to tell y'all when y'all used to gripe to me about what this ordinance said, I would say, that ain't my ordinance, that's yours. And you're the only one that can change it. And if you're not comfortable with the level of authority he has, you ought to do something about it. And if you are, you ought to take a stand that says we are, and we like the way things are running.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, we have an administrator for a purpose. We have legislators for purpose. And as long as we're able to understand that we make policies and enact laws and address the concerns of all of our constituents, not a select few, our administrator will get clear understanding from this legislative board and will continue to be efficient and effective in carrying out his duties. I don't know what happened prior to me being here. I served at the city of Palatka. I didn't come over here as a know-it-all to say, you know what, well, I know all of this and all of that. I listened to the institutional knowledge and wisdom of both the administrator and the attorney. And then when I sit among my colleagues and we're dealing with issues, just like we were dealing with issues earlier, when I ask the attorney, what does the law say? How should we make our decisions? When I know what the administrators say, I know what the law say, then we're going to talk about what our colleagues say, and we're going to vote. You come up on the upside of some votes, you come out on the downside of some votes. At the end of the day, it's still family. We've got to push forward. So I want to go on record saying that I wholeheartedly support this administrator and the fine job that he does every single day to push our county progressively forward. And not only has he done his job, he's done it extraordinarily well. And thank you.
You're comfortable with the job he's done and with the authority that y'all have invested in him?
Much
Certainly
more
are.
comfortable than what you can put on paper.
Second.
We'd be remiss too. I mean, I have to bring it, he's gonna shoot me for doing it, but today is Mike Anderson's last county commission meeting. Our chief CFO, our chief financial officer. He's been here. You talk about a man of integrity. He's kept these books straight, and Tina, I know you guys have dealt with him for a long time. And Mike, we appreciate you.
And we want a speech.
I always slept good at night through all these years because you were there. Let me tell you.
Speech.
Well, thank you kindly, but with all due respect, I don't keep the county's books, thank God.
Yeah.
That's done by the clerk and the finance director. I do like to consider myself as serving as your financial consultant for the board. Certainly your budget officer and deputy county administrator. I can say this has been an interesting and very challenging 11 years that I've worked for Mr. Leary. Prior to that, 4 years for Mr. Smith. And I want to thank them as well as the board for all the support that you've given me, for putting up with me for 15 years. It's truly been an honor to serve this group and to also serve the citizens of Putnam County. None of us are perfect. We have made mistakes, and most certainly I have made mistakes during my time here. But I think we can all honestly say that we've done the best job that we can. And it's been an honor for me to have worked for Mr. Leary. He's a dedicated man. He sets the example, as does Mr. Smith. And never once in my 15 years with this county have ever seen either one of these gentlemen do anything that would shame them or their families or the county. I honor these gentlemen. I respect them as I do you. And I'm truly going to miss all of you. And I thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Any more comment?
Mr. Chairman, do we really have much more than 5 more minutes of business?
We have one
for us to
more
have to
item
come
to
back?
take care of.
Let's do it. Let's get over it.
You ready?
Mr. Harvey, I think.
No, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, let's.
He's
get
ready.
over.
I agree. Okay. Item 12, County Administrator, Mr. Rick Leary.
10D, sir.
10D.
Oh, yes, we have tabled that until January. And
Okay.
we need a motion to do so.
Okay,
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Call for the question.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That was done. Now, County Administrator, Mr. Rick Leary.
Well, I have nothing beyond these appointments that you have listed, sir.
Okay, I have one. I have Darlene Crow to the Animal Services Committee. Mrs. Crow has multiple years with the guide dog handler, and I think she brings that perspective to the board, and she will be representing District 2, Darlene Crow. I have all of her information, Tabby, here.
Are we gonna do a motion at the end?
Yeah, ball.
Yes, we can
All
do
right.
that. Mhm. Go ahead.
Okay. I have Better Place Plan Oversight Committee. I would like to reappoint Ron Jones. And on the Parks and Recreation Committee, I would like to appoint Bonnie Harrison.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to reappoint Daniel Shepard to the Better Place Plan Oversight Committee.
Very well. Anybody else?
I have none.
Mr.
I'm
Harvey?
still working on them, sir.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we appoint the people we have named for the various committees.
Motion on the floor?
Second.
Second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. County Attorney, Mr. Stacy Manning.
Well, just the one item left is whether or not, I need direction from this board as to whether or not you wish for me to continue to be able to make public records requests, either at my own discretion or as requested by administration, or would you like the board to, by majority vote, give me direction to do that?
Mr. Chairman, I so move that we continue the practice of the legal department being able to operate in open, transparent, constitutionality, et cetera.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, carries.
So just to clarify, I may continue to
That's a
still
big
do
yes.
that.
Do what you've been doing. Do what Russ been doing. That might be dangerous.
Okay. Clerk of Court, Mr. Tim Smith.
No items, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you, sir, very much.
We thank Mr. Smith for his institutional knowledge and thorough commentary earlier. The citizens, I can tell, were relieved with his comments as well.
That's right. All right, commissioner comments.
I
Brief?
have
Yes?
All right, this Saturday, December the 12th at 10, there is the fire department in Georgetown has invited all of us to attend a dedication ceremony recognizing Eddie Babbitt for his service with the fire department all those years. And coupled with that, we had voted a long time ago to name the ferry landing road Babbitt's Landing. And I thought it would be appropriate to add this to that. And so not only will they have a statue and do a ceremony about the fire department and his service, we'll also, those that want to go down the road, we'll talk about Eddie at the fire station, and we will unveil the sign at the end that says Babbitt's Landing. So I know we have a parade conflict that day too.
I think we can make them both.
Okay, good.
Oh.
All right, well, you
At
have the cards. Does anyone need more information? I just wanted to make sure you
good with
knew
it.
about it. Okay, thanks.
Okay, anybody else?
Merry Christmas.
No, hang on. Mr. Chairman, we do have a parade conflict. Melrose is 10 o'clock.
Oh,
not
Lord.
noon. But, you know, we can't be everywhere, so I understand that. Do want to thank Mike Anderson. As I said in my speech, you've been a lifesaver to me, and I really appreciate holding my hand through these past 15 months. And I thank you very much, and our clerk of the court, Tim Smith, and Mr. Jones also. I do want to say Interlaken had their 18th Christmas celebration last Saturday. It's one of the biggest ones we've ever had. Over 100 entries on floats and thousands of people in that little town that night. And it was really a great event. Yesterday I attended the Ocala, the I-75 relief interstate meeting. Then Mr. Jacobovich picked me up and we drove down to meet with Commission Chairman Mr. Hall and Public Works Superintendent and Assistant Superintendent to look at 4 roads that they were doing with the product that we've been talking about. And you can go on Facebook and see that being put down if you'd like. That was he did a knife test, and I can just quickly tell you that one road was 127% compact, and you couldn't even stick a regular knife into the ground on a dirt road. That's how hard this road was. The other roads were at 97, 98% compaction rate. So, and they're fixing to pave over top of it. They're going to put some gorilla snot down first. I don't know what that is, but it binds up some of the loose materials so the asphalt doesn't slip off the road when they do it. So I'm going to go down there in January and look at that road again, but they are predicting that they can do it for less than $100,000 a mile, all of it, paving, stabilization, the whole works. So it's pretty interesting idea, and I'll let Don speak for himself of how he felt about that. I do want to wish everybody Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and I just want to say that you know, this is, I don't share some of the values, not the values. I don't share some of the ideas that other commissioners have. I do like less taxes. I do like less government. I do, and I've constantly tried to bring that out. I try not to be just a no vote. I try to be a vote of reason. And do I get offended? Yeah, sometimes I do when I come back up here and see the pamphlets I give out laying on the table. But that's okay. This is what it's about. But I do ask that that you respect at least the things I try to do, because I do want what's best for Putnam County. We cannot continue down the path that we've been going, and the brighter days are ahead of us. And I think we all want that. So I just ask for that you understand that about me. Thank you.
I know we're all trying to go, but I really believe that it's important for Mr. Harvey to have an opportunity when he say that we can't continue down the road that we're going down. Putnam County is guilty of having an anemic tax base. That's what we're guilty of. We have an anemic tax base.
We do.
And it simply means that we have to be innovative in our approach to do business. And you know what? Just a week ago, when there was a ribbon-cutting ceremony in East Palatka, off of Yevington Road, off of Gilbert, there, how many citizens would be deprived of what we call the basic necessity of essential services in this community if there was not a process involved? Can we afford it? Absolutely not. Can we afford not to do it? Hello? There are times that we've got to move beyond our box and do things that will cause our community to just meet the minimums. And I applaud each of us being independent thinkers before we get to the meeting, but somehow we must convert from independence to interdependence and be able to weave a way and a method for us to progressively enhance quality of living. And so if we could take a moment, and I'm not trying to put Commissioner Harvey on the spot, but when you feel like 4 of us are going down the wrong road and 1 of us is going down the right road, I just think we need to have clarification on it, because I don't think the rest of us want more taxes. I don't want the community to be overextended, but I also know that we did not want the federal government to come out here and take over that jail out there and become the, quote, oversight of that. And if it wasn't for the innovative outside thinking there and the leadership of this administrator working with the sheriff, and some of this stuff predates me, but I know that we're not giving people the honor that they have earned, because before I got here, this county was rolling. And I just came as an add-on 3 years ago after the citizens felt, but I don't think that we can come in the door and pretty much say everything is wrong or everything. And I'm not saying that's what you're saying, but you are saying that you feel by yourself are alienated with some of your ideologies, and the rest of us pretty much are going in the wrong direction. So kind of help us so we can understand.
I didn't say that,
Okay.
but I've spent a lot of time in the finance department, and we've had these discussions. And last year, $3 million was taken out of reserves to balance the budget. You got 2 more years of that, 2 more years before the state says you can't take any more out. You got a 1/2-cent sales tax that produces about roughly $3 million a year. Is that what a half cent does? Is going to go, is pledged towards the jail for payment. Now, all of that won't be used, but some of that money is going to come out of general fund. So other services are going to be cut. The sheriff only committed to $300,000 to $400,000 of his budget to make that payment. That's a huge payment. For 45 years, 45 years we've got a loan on that jail. That's a big debt for Putnam County. And when I said $50 million, Commissioner, that doesn't include the interest on that note. So my point is this: we cannot raise taxes anymore. We've got to cut something out in the next 2 years to balance our budget, or we're not going to have it. If we continue down the spending path that we're making, we're not going to sustain ourselves. And believe me, I've had these talks, and it's important that we know that. I'm not putting doubt or blame on anybody. We got roads that out there that prior commissioners, and Mr. Leary told me this, prior commissioners wanted to put as much asphalt down as they could to get the road. I understand that. I do understand that. But now we've got to go back and redo some of these areas. We don't have the money for this. And with a decreasing tax base, we're dependent upon sales tax right now to do that. But what if we keep losing citizens? We've lost a few citizens already. What if we continue losing citizens? And the surrounding counties around us are doing well.
Well,
it's time for us to do well again. And I believe that's all I'm trying to say.
and I don't have a problem with what you're trying to say, but I do have an issue with an assessment, a superficial assessment of why we are in the condition that we're in. There's no interstate system that comes through Putnam County. All of the other counties in northeast Florida have interstate system. There's some of the coastal counties that have an ocean. There are a lot of different things that are there. We are still paying for the sins of yesteryear, but at the same time, Commissioner Harvey, I guess what I'm saying, we might as well all be transparent and candid. I know we're trying to go, but this is necessary. It makes it appear that you are labeling your colleagues as a bunch of tax and spend colleagues, and that you are the only person who's conservative and sensitive to the citizens. We all are strapped there, and it really it's a burden to us to have to raise the one penny. But it was fair. It was equitable. All of those things, and I just want all of us to do everything we have to do to pull together a united vision so that this community thrives. But if we keep saying all the people are leaving and all we're doing is fueling that theory of the deaf, the dying, and the hopeless, that's not what this is about. You know, to me, the buck stops on the county level with us. And we cannot paint pictures of doom and gloom and play the conspiracy theory into the minds of people who, what bothered me after that hearing last week is that there were actual posts on Facebook that says we got what we wanted. They were not talking about the audit. They were talking about giving a black eye to Putnam County. That's the issue that Carl Flagg really have a problem with. You know, this is home, and all of us, you know, we're trying to make it better. And I just don't want it to be that you're the only one that's making us better. All of us are trying to make us better. We just have different ideas. It's like going to Jacksonville. You may go 207, I may go 17, but let's just all go. So let's make us better together, and let's agree to do that.
And I didn't refer to you as tax and spend. I did not refer to you.
It was implied.
I have a,
That's the way I'm taking it. The rest of them can speak for themselves.
No, everybody hates to pass a tax. I mean, our citizens don't want to be taxed. We don't want to tax them. They've already got a heavy burden. And we can't compare ourselves to the other 7 counties that Representative Van Zants has, because they have money that we don't have. I mean, we can't compete. We are what we are, and we need to work together to make ourselves better. And I just hated those words, poorest county in Florida, poorest city, and all of that. If we keep saying it and building it, you know, it just makes us look bad. We need to forget that and just push forward with what we can in the future. And I just, you know, if you're going to serve in office, you do it because you want to make it a better county. You don't give all your time in this job because you want a paycheck. You want to see what you can do, and you need to work together that everyone can look at the whole picture. And it takes 5 commissioners to have different views, to put them all together and come up with an understanding. And that's what we need. And I'm sorry that you felt left out and that you were not elected chairman, but...
it has nothing to do with that.
Okay. But I think if we're going to get anything done, we better move together and just look at our problems and see what we can do to just make them all better with all of our life's experiences, put it together and see what we can come up with.
Amen. Okay,
Thank you, sir.
all right. Well,
I'm so hungry I could eat a gorilla snot sandwich.
So move we adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman,
I want to, yes.
before we go, we continued item 10D, that text amendment.
Yes, sir.
Brian pointed out to me that we need to continue it to a time and date certain so that he won't have to re-advertise. So I'd like a motion to continue it to the first meeting in January at 10 a.m.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
I want to say one more thing. A big thing happened last week. We have a new congressional district and a whole congressman for our district. We don't share with anyone. That's huge and what we were just all talking about. We are the third largest population in that district. It's Bradford, Union, Clay, Alachua, a little bit of Marion that is split, and all of Putnam. That's the first time we've been all in a very, very long time. There's power in that. So that's, with that,
Power.
let's adjourn.
Let's have power and adjournment.